willkommen zum zweiten Teil vom Florida Aquarium Center for Conservation. Wir sind jetzt hier in den Greenhouses, den Gewächshäusern. Hier wachsen aber keine Pflanzen, sondern wir haben hier jede Menge Korallen. Mit mir hier ist Carrie und die wird uns jetzt ein bisschen erklären, was hier eigentlich gemacht wird. Carrie,
hi,
thank you so much.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too, always. And it's been a long time that we've been here the last time. So this facility has grown significantly. Tell us more about it. What are you doing here?
We're here in our coral greenhouses. This is one of our coral larval settlement systems. The way this aquarium system works is in the sump, where normally you might just have some rock or a refugium, we actually are keeping large adult corals in what we call the sump part of the tank. Then we take the coral larvae that are produced in our spawning systems and bring them down here and settle them in this shallow tray that I'll show you in a minute. And the reason that we want to have the adults in the sump of this system is because they are providing that symbiotic algae that lives in the coral's tissues, and also all the good bacteria that that baby coral is going to need to grow up into a healthy adult.
All right. So they're here. Where are the babies now?
Yeah, so the babies are over in this tray. You came with good timing. So we just had an elkhorn coral spawn about 2 weeks ago. So
those were the corals that we saw in the last video, by the way, the elkhorn corals. We're going to link that video so you know what happened last time.
So those elkhorn corals produced about 88,000 larvae, and we take those larvae and settle them in these bins. And we'll just put the larvae in with these seasoned settlement tiles. So the coral larvae actually likes the chemical cue from CCA, or crustose coral and algae, and that's how it knows, like, this is a reef, and that's where I want to settle. So we put the larvae in there. Well, they still settle on the plastic anyways. You can see some of them there along the rim. Those have decided that that's perfectly fine and they'll just settle there. But many of them do settle on these tiles, and then we'll take them out, and then they spend the first 3 to 5 months of their life in this tray. I'll show you some of the tiles that have tiny little babies on them. But what is important about all these different bins is we actually know who the mom is and who the dad is for each one of these crosses. So we did very targeted crosses so that we can track these babies as they grow, like who maybe is resistant to heat, who is resistant to disease, like which parents make the strongest baby.
All right, which is what we need for the reefs outside.
Exactly.
Because of the temperature issue. Speaking of temperature, just prior to my translation break, I mean, it is incredibly hot in here already. So do you chill all these systems?
Yeah. So, you know, it's a lot of people say, oh, isn't it great to grow corals in the greenhouse? But the greenhouses get really hot, especially here in Florida. Greenhouses are really meant to extend your growing season through the winter in cold climates. So you're right, we have to chill the water, and we have to have ventilation in these greenhouses pretty much constantly during the summer. So we have a chilled water loop that runs through the entire facility. I think we have about 21 tons of chilling out on the deck. So all the hot air is blown outside of the greenhouses, and everything is controlled, runs through titanium coils in each sump.
You don't need lights, obviously, for this now. And you're saving then again.
There's pluses and minuses to each. We have a huge chilling need, but we're not paying for the lighting. But the spectrum is a little bit different in the greenhouse because it cuts out a lot of blue light and there's no UV.
In dem Sumpf, den wir da vorne gesehen haben, da sind eben die großen Elternkorallen drin, die großen Stöcker und Kolonien. Die versorgen sozusagen die frisch gesiedelten neuen Korallenlarven dann mit dem entsprechenden Mikrobiom, was sie brauchen, also die Zooxanthellen und auch alles andere. Also man geht davon aus, dass alle diese Sachen wertvolle Grundlagen enthalten für diese neu angesiedelten Korallen. Die ganzen Korallen, die beim letzten Spawning-Event, der gerade vor 2 Wochen war, die sind jetzt alle hier drin. Und das Interessante an der Arbeit hier ist, dass von jeder Sorte und von jedem Muttertier, von jedem Vatertier, also das heißt, der Gentyp ist ganz genau exakt bestimmt von den Korallen und der wird weiter auch getrackt in der Zukunft. Das heißt, man kann nachher sehen, welche Kombination sozusagen aus dem Genpool erzeugt die beste Resilienz gegenüber zum Beispiel Temperatur oder Wasserverschmutzung oder. Und das ist natürlich das Interessante, weil man möchte die Korallen ja irgendwann wieder dann ins Riff packen. Auf meine Frage, wie das hier mit der Temperatur ist, weil wir natürlich sagen, super, wir können hier unter freiem Himmel sozusagen Korallen halten. Das hat den Vorteil, man braucht kein Licht, auch wenn das Spektrum ein bisschen anders ist. Hier ist weniger Blaulicht. Aber wir haben eben den Vorteil, wir brauchen keine Lampen. Dafür müssen wir es trotzdem kühlen. Also das Wasser hier würde viel zu heiß werden. Wir haben hier easy 36 Grad, die wir hier gerade haben. Also ich brauche halt bald ein neues T-Shirt. Und das muss man halt eben kühlen. Aber ansonsten ist es in der Gesamtrechnung immer noch die günstigste Möglichkeit, solche großen Mengen an Korallen aufzubewahren. Von diesen Gewächshäusern gibt es ein paar mehr, wir zeigen euch das gleich.
These corals are part of the Florida Reef Tract Rescue Project with the Association of Zoos and Aquariums. These were rescued because of stony coral tissue loss disease, which affects 22 species of boulder and brain coral that has pretty much run through the entire state of Florida. It started in Miami in 2014.
Was that the one where the pillar corals were losing their...
Yep,
I remember you told me that you were trying to work with antibiotics and you know, like trying to put that even out in the ocean to try to heal those corals. And
so that's how it all kind of started, was the rescue of these corals sort of started with the pillar coral. The pillar coral was so heavily affected by stony coral tissue loss disease, and we did work here to develop a topical treatment. It's amoxicillin in a specially designed paste that is now applied by divers in the ocean along a receding tissue line on a coral that does actually stop stony coral tissue loss disease. And it's been used on over 11,000 corals in the state of Florida. It's being used all over the Caribbean. And it does stop that lesion from progressing. However, you have to revisit that coral as new lesions pop up in other places. Obviously, you can't go out and physically treat every coral. It requires a good management plan of like, okay, we're going to target popular dive sites. We're going to target large colonies that have a good breeding potential. So it's a targeted application to certain corals.
But the cause is it just temperature, or is it all the stuff that...
So there's been a lot of research done to try to identify the pathogen, and there is no consistent pathogen that is found that seems to be the one causative agent. It is possible that it is a virus that impacts the symbiont. People are starting to look into that a little more deeply, but it does appear to be something happening to the symbiont first before the coral then breaks down.
Also hier sind auch wieder Korallen aus diesem Rettungsprojekt, was die AZA macht. Wir haben bei unserem Video bei Mode Marine schon darüber gesprochen. Viele öffentliche Aquarien lagern und hältern gerade Korallen, die aus der Natur entnommen wurden, weil sie an einer Gewebenekrose leiden. Das heißt, die Koralle stirbt einfach ab und verliert ihr komplettes Gewebe. Es wird daran geforscht, man hat auch schon eine Salbe sozusagen tatsächlich entwickelt hier, die basiert auf Amoxicillin und ein paar anderen Ingredienzien. Die wird tatsächlich auch durch Taucher aufgetragen auf geschädigtes Gewebe und verhindert auch tatsächlich das Fortschreiten. Allerdings, wenn man die Korallen dann später wieder besucht, sieht man, dass einfach neue Stellen entstanden sind, die dann auch wieder behandelt werden müssen. Also es verhindert die Ursache offensichtlich nicht, sondern es sorgt nur dafür, dass es vielleicht etwas langsamer geht. Während man das macht, wird natürlich auch daran geforscht, zu suchen, was für ein Erreger ist das, ist es ein Virus, ist es ein Bakterien. Offensichtlich, das sagte Harry gerade, ist es so, dass erst der Symbiont beschädigt werden oder gestört werden in ihrem Dasein und dann stirbt irgendwann das Korallengewebe ab. Also hier ist es wirklich bewusst auch so gewählt, dass wir hier mit Abbispumpen arbeiten, weil hier die Geschwindigkeit eingestellt werden muss. Carrie, you're changing the flow in these systems, right?
Right. It's really important that in this baby tray that we change the flow throughout the course of their life. So right now the flow is on pretty low, there's a lot of water is being bypassed back into the sump, and it's just enough to maintain the temperature in the baby tray.
All right.
So using the Abyss pump, this allows me over the course of the year, it's running fairly low right now, but then we can turn up the flow rate, adjust the bypass, and give us much more flow through the baby tray. Once they start to develop a skeleton and they start to get a little bit bigger, then we'll drive a lot more flow through that tray and they'll start to get a stronger skeleton. But right now it's down very, very low just because there's still these tiny larvae that are trying to settle.
Unfortunately, there's no there's no benefit for the noise level in this room because of the fans running all down.
It's already really loud in here, but it's a really harsh environment out here.
Yeah.
This greenhouse is, you know, we're constantly
we see
in
that. There's rust everywhere.
The Florida humidity and salt ruins anything made of steel. Stainless steel even just, it's done. This pump not ever get like a rusty pump housing is invaluable to us. And the controller also being able to withstand this environment. We go through controllers like Kleenex. So a controller that doesn't need to be replaced every 6 months to a year means a lot.
Wow, awesome. Love that. Thank you very much.
Labyrinthiformis, the groove ring coral. So you saw those really white, pale circles that were only about 2 weeks old. These are 3 months old. So that gives you an idea of that early growth rate. These are actually part of a research experiment with the Q that makes the coral settle. So actually looking at, can you add the chemical Q without seasoning the tile, and what difference that makes in their survival and growth. So Jenny is taking photos of them all with a scale in the photographs, so we can measure them on the computer over time.
Was Jenny hier gerade macht, was wir gesehen haben, die Fotoaufnahmen, da geht es darum festzustellen, in Wachstumsunterschieden bei den Korallen, die sich sozusagen festgesetzt haben. Und dann geht es um das Substrat. Die Substrate werden teilweise vorbereitet, teilweise nicht vorbereitet, künstlich gealtert, mit einem Chemiecocktail versehen, der einfach dafür sorgt, dass sich Larven auf diese Teils draufsetzen. Um die Unterschiede festzustellen, wo es besser geht und wo es schlechter geht, werden diese ganzen Fotoaufnahmen gemacht von allen einzelnen Korallen, die wir hier gesehen haben. Also die Koralle, die ihr hier seht, die Staghorn, die ist 6 Jahre alt und da wurden schon Teile von abgebrochen und gefragt. Das heißt, die ist aus einer winzigen Korallenlarve entstanden, innerhalb von 6 Jahren auf die Größe. Also absoluter Wahnsinn. That is impressive. Thank you so much for showing us around. It's just an amazing work you do, and I wish you all the best you need to get things done in the time that you get the construction done of the new facility that we saw. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And can't wait to see that again in a couple of years with all the successes you have.
Yeah, you'll have to come back when the new building is open, doubling in size, and have lots of interesting things to talk about with LED lights versus greenhouse lighting. And it's just been growing and growing for 7 years now, and I'm glad you're able to come back out again and see it all.
Yeah, well, always. You know, who doesn't like to go to Florida? Especially when we are lucky with the weather and with everything, and with the spawning event.
Yeah.
So, perfect timing. Liebe Leute, das war's vom Florida Aquarium Center for Conservation. Wir sehen uns beim nächsten Video wieder. Wenn euch das gefallen hat, lasst uns bitte ein Like da. Gebt uns auch gerne mal ein Abo und eine Benachrichtigung. Und wenn ihr irgendwelche Anregungen habt, dann schreibt es einfach in die Kommentare. Wenn ihr mehr darüber wissen wollt, verlinken wir euch auch gerne Carrie mit ihrem Team. Die haben eine riesige Webseite und erklären euch ganz, ganz, ganz viel darauf. Also seid gespannt und wir sehen uns beim nächsten Video. Macht's gut. Ciao.
Bye everyone.